It's very difficult for them to police all of this as well, you know. I
park in Tunbridge Wells 10 minutes over my thing. I'll get a ticket, lad. You know what I mean? Fuck you. What are you talking about?
Welcome everybody to another Outside Crowd podcast, and I'm delighted we're actually here with Ryan.
Yo!
And Mystery Man as well has turned up. We have the one and only William Gordon.
Hello, everyone. Long time no speak, Coos.
We've missed him, haven't we?
No.
Have we?
No.
No.
Got a hole in the fucking head.
It's been a boring podcast without me. I've listened. I can't even fucking bother to listen.
You won't listen unless you're in it. Yes, you don't listen.
I just cut out all your to listen to me speaking.
I don't doubt that.
God, I have to put up with all this all the time. It's like two children. But anyway, let's. It's delighted. I'm delighted to have them.
Well, I know you are. You can big smile.
Absolutely delighted.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. What we're going to talk about today? We're going to talk about, because this is a topic that's close to William's heart.
I'm Rise.
Don't try and offload it.
Sorry.
This is your topic.
Me!
Climate change and how it's affecting work in the outdoor environment. So, William, first of all, just give me your initial thoughts about this topic. Why it's important to you, how it's affecting work as a general sort of overview.
It's relevant to me because obviously I work in nature, work outside, and in the environment. And I think I've been seeing certainly a lot of things change, but I'm not sure if that is just because things are changing or if it's because I'm out in it every day and I'm seeing stuff, whereas before I might not have seen it all the time. I don't know. Like for example, I'm doing my tree surveying now, and I'm noticing stuff more. And obviously, the more jobs I quote, we're doing bigger jobs and stuff now, so I see more big trees and things like that. And also more involved in planning and the approach to tree protections and those kind of things. My initial thoughts is that I'm seeing a lot of trees struggling. I'm seeing some pretty old school approaches to tree work, which is affecting trees, and then other habitats around it. And I think the more I see this, my feelings are that there's not enough being done, and I'd say there's some, I don't want to say irresponsible, but maybe more uneducated decisions being made on tree work, which is not in keeping with what we should potentially be doing. I'm not an expert on it because I know from what I see how trees respond to things and.
Okay, I suppose. Sorry, Raj. I'm just going to cut across you there because we talk about climate change, and then there's a lot. The reasons behind it are probably not something that we're necessarily going to get into. But some facts here: the UK is getting warmer. The last decade, 2016 to 25, has been around 1.33 degrees C warmer than from 1961 to 1990 average. 4 of the last 5 warmest years in the UK have occurred very recently. 2025 was the warmest year on record in the UK.
Yeah.
We have days above 30 degrees C are becoming much more common, particularly in southern England.
Yeah.
Pattern of rainfall appears to be becoming more extreme. Longer dry spells followed by heavier rainfalls. Spring 2025 was exceptionally dry, with many parts of England and Wales receiving less than half their normal rainfall.
Wow.
So I suppose in terms of actual stats regarding change of climate, it's happening. So, you can go into the reasons behind why it's happening. That's another argument, but it's happening. So,
I don't know about you, but just talking purely on physiological health of trees. When the temperature's like this, I'm sure you and everyone else feels it. You're lethargic. It's a struggle to get things done. But obviously we can compensate for that with air conditioning or whatever, and we sit in our cars at Mine's normally sitting around 14, 15 degrees. But you haven't got air conditioning, have you?
I've got air conditioning. We're lucky the thing turned on.
Of course you don't. But it's the same things that happen to trees. You know, like severe weather in the winter, high winds, waterlogging, their issues, and then you have these long sustained periods of drought, and they're constantly being put, under stress. And then you have things like, pathogens coming from other countries, from trading and all that sort of stuff, introduced invasive species, and historically, the United Kingdom, when the weather's colder, that's kind of when we were beating these pathogens, because these foreign, pathogens and invasive species and insects like oak processionary moth and stuff like that, they couldn't survive our winters.
Yeah.
But now, because we're having these milder, wet winters, they can, and then they're proliferating in the summer and the springtime, and then they're causing massive damage. And we saw like the issues with ash dieback over the last 20 years or so, and that's affected over 90% of our ash trees, and they think we might lose over 60%. There's things like our native species like ash, oak, beech, and birch, and all those native species that are like crucial to the environment. Like for example, ash. I think it has like there's something like, I can't remember the exact number, but it's like several hundred insect species and mammals that are reliant totally on ash.
Wow.
So that is their main species, that the insects feed off ash only, and then the mammals feed off those insects, and then so if they get taken out of the environment, then you have this knock-on effect.
But do you find that's there's always been change over history, so there's always been climate change that's been happening.
Yeah.
So do you find though that although you're going to get some species that are going to either die out or change, there's going to be other ones, new ones that are coming in? Because I was aware that things like redwoods and sequoias, the ones that you get, the massive redwoods on the west coast of America, are becoming more suitable for growth over here because of the amount of the rainfall that we get in sort of certain chunks, and also the drier climates. No?
Yeah, I would say that is true. That is definitely true, and then there's also the whole thing around the more carbon that there is in the air, the more prolific, flora becomes. But it's happening at such a fast rate that you can't. There's not this evolution of there's new mammals being introduced that feed off these and then these insects. That there's like a whole chain of events that's happening very, very quickly, and you couple that along with the fact that, like for example, I read the other day, because I find this topic very interesting. So out of the G7 countries, we are the worst for wildlife, for biodiversity, and
that's ridiculous.
So for biodiversity and amount of truly wild land.
That's ridiculous.
I know, it's
that's
terrible,
ridiculous.
because we have we've obviously exploited our land. We cut down all of even like Ashdown Forest, for example, was all cut down so we could fight the Spanish
Armada.
Armada.
The forest has gone here. We've got hardly any forest.
Well, nothing. The largest one is in Scotland, and apart from that, there's I think apparently there's 2% of the United Kingdom that you could call truly wild. And the rest of it is not there. I'm also carving stuff up, and people think that you can, like, if you have these woodlands, they're like, oh, we're just going to cut a path through it, whatever. The more you do that, the more you segment it, like the less animals can survive, because they need areas to roam, and they need to be able to whatever, and they need to be able to spread tree seeds and then all that sort of stuff. And we're just ruining it. And coupled with like use of pesticides and herbicides and everything like that, like there is a chain of events that's happening very, very quickly in this country, and we can't keep up. And so my thought is that we need to change our approach to tree work massively, and the way we survey trees and the way that we work on them.
Wow.
And we have to stop just cutting stuff down because there's a cavity in it or whatever. We have to really take a step back and say what are we doing, and what is our approach? Like I saw a woman on LinkedIn the other day posting that her neighbours are having a tree cut down in central London because it was causing too much leaf fall and excessive shading. But like when you get to 40 degrees in summer, shading is mental. There was this thing the other day, like in Brussels. So in Brussels, there's a big forest next to Brussels, and then on the heat wave that we had recently, I think the max temperature was 40 something degrees in central Brussels. And then within like 10 miles, there's a forest. It was 22 degrees cooler in the middle of the forest. And like these kind of things, if you have these trees, that we just can't anymore cut stuff down because it causes too much shading. Or
I agree with you there. But what I find frustrating with all this is that it's the duplicity of everything, because you've got most individuals and people want to try and do the right thing, but then as soon as it comes to big business, housing developers, any sort of commercial enterprise, we put up industrial units, then that immediately takes precedence over protecting the landscape. You look at all the housing developments that are going on now, especially around here.
Yeah.
What do they want? They want nice greenfield sites. They don't actually try and redevelop some of the sort of grey and the brownfield sort of areas, because it costs too much money.
Yeah.
So all they want to do is hack up nice areas. So we are losing our natural landscape. And that's been going on for years and years and years. I remember when I was a kid, I'm 60, and when my old man was alive, when I was young, he always used to sort of say, crikey, the amount of development that's gone on compared to when he was young.
Yeah.
And it's ridiculous. Yeah. And I know you're saying about this lady who wants to cut down her tree, but her tree is a piss in the pot compared to all this other stuff that's going on. And I think the big picture is never addressed. We talk about it, but we governments just talk bollocks, basically.
It is a piss in the pot, but it is also...
He's stuck on that one. He's stuck on piss in the pot.
Well, yeah, we're not stuck on it. It's just that...
we do have to do it.
The majority, a lot of tree work is domestic tree work, and I think we need to be educating people that, like even a reduction or a prune or it's still... There's an issue, there's a problem with... I'm not saying that there's many people that do it, but there's an issue where there's people who are advising customers are the same people who do the work, and there should be a more surveyed approach where you have someone come round and they look at the tree and they go, "This is what I'd recommend for this tree," and then you have a separate contractor who, and that should be with commercial stuff as well.
Yeah, I think that's the point. It's, to my mind, every little helps. Everyone should be doing their bit, but it's totally frustrating when the efforts we put in, or we're forced to put in as individuals, are just completely swamped when all of a sudden a local council will give planning permission for some fucking housing development which just takes over a nice piece of greenfield land when they could have looked at somewhere else which could have been redeveloped and they could have made
definitely. And then what comes with that? You've got they will have to do devegetation, trees will have to be taken down, and then you've got a whole thing of like I worked in a development the other day, and several of the trees in this woman's garden had just had complete crown dieback, and I was like, when was this house built? And she was like 2 years ago, and I was like, well, obviously they don't. If you're following root protection zones, you should be doing 12 times the stem diameter. Okay, and if that's a big chunky oak tree, are they gonna not have anything underneath that's 20 meters outside that? 12 meters outside that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever.
Yeah.
So let's say some of them have 1.5 meters. Yeah, let's say up to 15 meters. If you think they're not going to have tractors driving over that, piling stuff underneath it, they're not going to put Harris fencing.
They
never will.
They must. Yeah.
And so what you see is this dieback, and you see all these issues. Then you see pathogens being introduced, and it's like that tree will look all right for a few years, and then after a while it will start to happen. Then you couple that in with a long sustained period of drought, and you see this stuff, but they don't care anymore. They've done their bit and they've gone. So
that's what I think. Like you said, JB, they're going to these other places because it's cheaper to build there. Now that's where we already talked the other day about artificial grass. If you're putting artificial grass in your garden, I want to see something else put in the garden that's going to have insect life. Because it's like we're creating hard standings. What are we replacing that with? What are we doing? You get an area that's like completely artificial grass. It's like, well, everything's gone from that garden. That whole habitat, the everything's gone. Yeah. And it's like you need to be in a position where you replace it. So, as JB said, we need to make it more expensive to do it in the green belt than it is to do it. What I mean by that, when I say more expensive, it's just to do this, you have to put the Harris fencing up. You have to make sure that this goes there. You must do this. And if you don't, you're going to get dragged up and down the fucking streets of London and kick the shit out. Piss off.
The problem is you've got this competing issues of we need more housing, We need more affordable housing for younger people, particularly because it's harder for them to get onto the housing ladder. And then you've also got so that means that needs space. But the problem I find, and I might be taught completely wrong, but just looking anecdotally and you see what developments are going up, it seems like permission is given for houses on greenfield sites. When I look around where we are now, and say Tunbridge Wells area, you can see that there are plenty of sites and areas that could be redeveloped and could be invested in, which will make the area better. But it's because housing companies want to maximise profit because it's easier for them to put up their shitty houses. And also the councils and the planners find it easier to sort of give permission and hit the quotas that they have to hit, rather than actually trying to have something which actually works and actually preserves the environment, as well as trying to reignite and trying to make the actual towns that we have better than what they currently are.
Yeah.
So I find it completely frustrating.
It's the pursuit of like eternal economic growth, isn't it? I mean, and that's tied into capitalism and everything. So it's very difficult to unpick that.
Yeah.
But I think.
But you could have something like where people actually try and have policies where they actually try and say, well, look, hang on, let's go round and we use the crappier sites first. And not everything is based around profit for these bloody housing companies. And if the housing companies are going to put stuff in and make their developments, they've actually got to do them to a decent standard, because there have been so many around here where the quality of housing has been absolute rubbish.
Yeah.
One of our family members bought a house locally. There was insufficient drainage. It was just put up rubbish. The place outside flooded. They're just housing developers, probably me. And if any of you want to come on and defend yourself, come on. Have the balls to do it.
Exactly.
Because I think most of the quality you put up is crap, mass-produced, and you don't really care much about the environment at all.
And the sign-off list for what they have to do, like having the way the waterways go and where the water used to run, how they channel it around, that's just been done. Quick, slapdash, done. And for me, that is the most important thing. The flash flooding we're having, we're going to have, like with the severe heat that we're having, and like Bill was saying about how the trees are covering that shade and what the difference it makes. It's like you've got to build these houses. There's somebody I'm speaking to at the moment. He's developing stuff, and he's coming from that point. I know him and his brother. The way they're going to go at this is to make sure that there is biodiversity. It is being done by the book, and it's made sure that these homes and the houses they're building have that behind them, so they can sleep well at night. And I know they're doing it, and it's like we need more people like that, because.
Yeah, and also things like if they're building the houses, look at how many houses around that have been constructed. How many actually have solar panels put on there?
Yeah, right.
So the housing developers aren't trying to make these as best as they can that's going to suit the changing climate.
Yeah, but I don't think
they're more based around, everything is built around a profit motive. And if the councils and the planning authorities actually put pressure on them to do what they should do and actually implement the rules and the regulations as they should be, then you might get better quality housing.
You can't rely on people having a good heart. So it has to be tied in with policy.
Yeah.
And I think the councils that it's very difficult for them to police all of this as well.
I park in Tunbridge Wells 10 minutes over my thing. I'll get a ticket, lad. You know what I mean? Fuck you. What are you talking about? They do it where it works, lad.
Yeah.
Fuck
where
that.
it's easy cash for them.
But the thing is, that could be easy. Like route protection zones, for example, that could be really. Like, imagine getting them to go around and check all the trees. Like, are you the correct distance away from the route protection zones?
Perfect.
And you get a ticket for every one. I mean, you still get fucking money. Yeah, exactly. Why aren't they doing that?
Because it's like JB said, it's not as easy. This is what winds me up royally. When, I go to a project, I'm looking at it going, we were looking at, I've been looking at a job recently, and it was about doing some work around a pond, TPO trees. I'm like, yep, sure, we've got a track mat completely round. And it's like, for me, I'm like, yes, that's exactly what we've got to do. We've got to do this exactly. It's like, I'm looking in the pond and going, right, okay, well, what wildlife is in here before we had a survey done? No, right. Well, until that's done, or until we've communicated about that, that's what we must do. And that it frustrates me because it's like I've lost jobs because I'm like, no, we're not doing that. We're not ripping that out to go through there to make it quicker and easier for us. We're going through there. You're going to have to pay for a scaffold. This. Oh no, we just take that out and cut that off.
Yeah.
You're not doing that. That's not happening. And I know I've lost jobs because of that. And what I would love, and I'm happy to do it. Snitches get stitches, brother. I don't give a shit when it comes to environment. If I drove past that job and I saw that it was cut down, I would love to have a number to ring and go, I'll go with you. Yeah. And I'll knock on that door and go, here, you speak to the ticket man, because I told you not to do that. This is my job. This is what I do in my living. And what you've done is against my advice. You went for the cheaper quote. They need to be fined. You need to be fined. Yeah. Make an example and be like, no, you cannot do that. And that's what it is. It's the same with you. When you do advice on taking the tree down, it's like, well, it's you're not. They play well for another X amount more. We can have the whole tree down. It's like, no. You're not listening. You can't take the whole tree down.
I think there's quite there's a disparity between. Well, there's a poor relationship often with like people who are doing work, construction, or even our contractors and like surveyors. So that's like ecological surveys or tree surveyors. There was like fucking stuff because they just think you're pushing a bit of paper around or whatever, pushing a pen around, and then like if you're like, oh sorry, you can't do this until like you've identified the roosting bats. Or you can't do this like because you can't work over these. They're just like, oh fuck off, mate. Like, do you know what I mean? Because it makes their job harder, and it's true. But then I think if people are working together, and like, there's a mutual understanding, then they'll be like, okay, well, how to work, and it has to be structured. But unfortunately, what that means is everything is going to get more expensive, and stuff's fucking expensive already.
Yeah.
You add that in, and it's cost, and it's like, well, and then who takes the fall? Like. The member of public takes the fall, and then the business owner takes the fall, and then sometimes people are trying to run.
How about the fact that G7 give a fine to the UK for not having it up to date?
They do.
Well, give them a bigger fine, and then they can. But instead of paying that fine, they pay less to actually do the job correct.
Yeah,
it's bollocks.
It's difficult, but then we moan about a tanking economy and stuff like that. So it's a really like multifaceted, very deeply hard conversation to have because everything gets expensive, and then it's like. And then like every part of society then becomes expensive. Then people who are worst off in this country, things get more expensive for them. So to just say we should pay more money for stuff is it's a loaded thing to say. You can't just say that. Food gets more expensive, transport, everything. So you have to be really careful with that. Because
one of the things. Sorry, you can say with one of the big issues that we have at the moment is the UK economy is always suffered from low productivity.
Yeah,
and if we can't even build a bloody railway from London to Manchester or wherever it was going to go.
Yes.
Without there's a number of reasons.
Isn't it? Yeah.
It's planning problems. It's also things, and people will turn around and say, well, why are we're putting great crested newts at higher priority than getting a railway built? Now, people have to start looking at what are the priorities that we need to have to get this stuff done, because I've worked on big construction projects and you get big construction work that will stop because of great crested newts. If that's the right name. I can't remember. So
they're obsessed with gold crested newts, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
Bats and gold crested newts.
Yeah, newts
and everything else.
But there are other ones as well. So and work does stop. You get antiquities as well. But even in terms of the the animals, it's things do stop, and I know a lot of construction people get frustrated because they are given priority and work stops because of certain things which most people just say, oh fuck it, let's just get on with it. So you've got a balance there. There's a big sensitivity in terms of how do we increase productivity as well as protect our environment.
So for me with that one, it's like.
Why is the job going ahead even before they figured that out?
Because they're finding them on site. So if you're building a railway, you're not going to be surveying everything, or they might be surveying them. They might find a habitat that hasn't been found, and you just you've got to then move them or do whatever they do for them.
The thing for me with that, that the solution for that is where you're going to have the railway, and where there's a piece of land that was bought for the railway, it's like every so often we have to buy X amount of land to accommodate for that. I can't. I'm sorry, but
it's a lot more complicated than than that.
Yeah.
What
do you mean?
I mean, well, it's a
Because you can't just move habitats either.
have a kink in an airway.
Yeah,
A bridge.
a bridge or whatever.
It'll be a very slow speed railway.
and then again, you're into the
Do a jump.
Then we've gone massively over budget.
Yeah.
And that is what it boils down to is budget.
But stopping the project for that compared to having that in the first place, which one's going to be more expensive? And this.
idea.
But that's what
Yeah.
my
I mean,
thoughts are.
it just slows down the productivity. So there'll be things going on. So they'll have to take. I mean, it's not like like the old days. You're thinking of building a bit of track. Oh, we come across a great crested newts. Stop. Do the survey.
Yeah.
There's whole loads of things going on building these railways.
Of course.
But it's another factor that is that affects the productivity. Why things slow down. Why things aren't built as quickly as they could do. There's a whole host of reasons, and also the environmental planning that goes on. I mean, you look at what's happening for the new Heathrow terminal, and all the arguments about building a terminal at Heathrow. They've got to find the right land. You've got all the environmental impact assessments around there, everything that's going to affect climate. It's just like, how do we get anything done in the current situation when we're trying to take so many factors into account in environment, animals? What's the most important thing? Because we take everything into account, then as you say, Bill, prices then just end up going up. And we don't get anywhere. Britain then goes backwards. It is bloody difficult.
It is difficult. But I hear what you're saying. I do know what you mean. I just struggle with the fact that we know there's going to be newts. There's going to be habitat. For the love of all God. With everything we've got going on, every new build, every single place that we have industrial areas with flat roofs should have living roofs. End of. They should have living roofs. That is argue me why we can't have that. Or
at least you could have solar panels on.
Yeah,
there.
that's what I'm saying. Living roofs, solar panels. You should
Yeah.
have wind turbines, and then you should have water recycling systems.
And that's what we should have.
All that sort of thing as well. And then also, I think we should be massively investing, and they should make. I know they already do. Like you can buy carbon credits and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, but
you have to we really should be for example places like Minsmere and then Nep Castle, those rewilding projects and stuff like that. These construction companies, they should be buying up land and rewilding them as well and offsetting it.
Yeah.
'Cause if you are going to build this and you're going to do it, fair enough. A lot of the stuff they're building it on is farmland, which is technically a factory anyway, as it is. They should be just investing in these places and and expanding these places so that we're not losing it completely, but we're investing to other places if that's the way we have to do it. But like Nep Castle, I'm going in September, or is it October? Anyway,
Another holiday?
No, my dad's taking me.
Oh.
And my two sisters. It was for my 30th birthday, which was almost 2 years ago. Thanks.
Oh.
And I'm very grateful.
Yeah.
But the statistics that have come out of that is the amount of biodiversity, the insect life, wildlife, flora that's come back up from it is incredible. They've got grazing bison, they've got
brilliant.
beavers, they've got everything, and these apparently what they predicted and what's actually happened is tenfold.
Oh, fantastic!
Honestly, that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
no,
fantastic.
And if you do stuff like that, which is clever, which is also costs so little money, you just fucking leave it alone.
That was my
Was this
point.
the one
but
where
this
they
is-
brought the beavers back into certain areas?
Well, they did that in
Scotland?
Cornwall first, but now they also Devon, and now they put it here as well.
That was my comment. My comment was there's got to be something. There is.
They're pissing around, aren't they?
But this is what I'm saying. But there's
Let's pick up the news. Fucking just make these areas bigger.
But make them bigger. That's the thing. I'm sorry, but this is just such bollocks that I'm just no, sort it out.
Yeah, but they have to appear to be doing something, don't
Yeah,
they?
but that's the bollocks. You're not doing anything, like you said. You mean that part we were talking on the podcast last week about artificial grass companies. We wanted them to come on to talk about the recycled material they're using. There's composite decking out there that's good recycle, but it's where's that recycling happening? What's going? You say it's recycled, but what happens to the material after? When people have offcuts in that material, where does it go? If you're making a recycled material, then all the offcuts that landscapers and builders use, where does that go? Landfill? No, it needs to be back recycled. It needs to go back to them. I know there's some of them doing them. I was saying about artificial grass companies. If you're covering the ground with plastic, then for every square metre you plant a fucking tree. You know, like what I'm saying is like why there is got to be a better solution that isn't like you said.
Well, then there should be like, you know, if suppliers are supplying composite decking, they should have a place where you can bring old composite decking to be recycled. Yes,
and I know they do as well. I want to say that there is a company that I know that does that as well. But I want to make sure they're all doing it. You know, it's not just, and that could be just that company is doing it. It's like they don't have to do it. I'm saying they have to do it.
Yeah.
End of. It's the same as us, making sure everything we have on site has to be 100% recycled. That's why we use our recycling plant in Tunbridge Wells, because I know whatever goes in that skip is going to be 100% recycled.
Cool. Yeah. Well, as you can hear, we're very passionate about this.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just shows the depth of issues in here, because we've gone from just like your local doing some tree survey work, doing some tree issues, all the way up to massive great construction projects. So, and with our little sort of superficial chat, it just shows there are still so many areas that need to be looked at, and also, you know, people like us need to be educated as well to see what is going on. Because there are probably a lot of stuff that we don't know about, and we're just caught in that trap where you feel somewhat helpless because we don't quite know what's happening, and we see a load of shit, and we see plenty of things like housing developers getting what they want, taking up land, developing land which we think, well, why, that's a perfectly nice piece of greenfield site, why couldn't you have gone somewhere else?
Yeah.
So
I think you just have to educate yourself on a personal level, don't you? And just look a bit more into the minutiae of like how the workings of your own job. And if everyone did that, then, you know, it starts to build up a patchwork of everything else. And, and you're hoping that, you know,
yeah, it does. Sort of I just wish there were greater controls over big business and actual government policies, and policies are actually implemented, because half the time it doesn't look like they are, and it looks like most of the times they take the soft option, because that's the one that makes more profit for the housing company or other companies, as well as getting quotas off the list of local authorities because they need to get their housing quotas done, rather than necessarily doing what's right. So anyway, that's our rant. But interesting one. A lot more we could talk about. And if people have got any thoughts, any comments, send them in. Put them on Instagram. Put them on, you know, Spotify, whatever. And people who are listening, if there are housing developers, people work in those industries, come on in. Tell us what you do. Tell us what your environmental credentials are, and tell us why you prioritise the greenfield sites over redeveloping other areas. We all know why, but come on and explain what you do and what your policies are. So if anyone wants to come on, do that. But apart from that, thank you everyone for listening. Hope you're enjoying it. Give us a like, give us a review on Spotify, everywhere. I know everyone says this, but we do need this. We're only a small podcast, even though we are the UK's premier landscaping, tree surgeon and business podcast. So from Ryan.
See you next time.
William.
Thanks very much, everyone. Hope you enjoyed. Okay.
Yeah, I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll catch you next time on another Outside Crown podcast.